Welcome back to The Grateful Artist. I am so glad you're here this week because what a treat. We interviewed my dear friend, Evan Griffith. He's an accomplished writer, writing several books. He's a gallery owner for 30 years. He's been in the professional field. He's a traveler. He's a philosopher. He is a seeker in life, and he is kind of filled with magic. One of my favorite people on earth. Evan Griffith, everyone. Evan, thank you so much for coming to the Grateful Artists podcast. We are so glad you're part of our community. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here, Stephanie. Thrilled, thrilled, thrilled.
Oh,
Thank you.
great. Well, I'm thrilled. I couldn't even sleep last night. I can't even. You're literally one of my favorite people, and every time I talk to you, I seriously am on a high for 2 weeks or so. So
Oh my God. Well, this is such a mutuality because I feel the same thing. I just finished reading your book a couple weeks ago, and right when I thought there were no more depths to plumb for you after all our conversations, oh my God, you blew my mind wide open.
really,
So I'm really excited for today.
oh, you are so sweet. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you liked it. That's awesome. Well, you are
Loved
definitely
it.
my soul brother. I tell you, we're definitely
Oh,
connecting on this level. That's so fun. Um, okay, so really, I want you on here. I would really love to learn about you more in depth about your past, maybe your childhood, and then kind of, learn about your writing, how you fell in love with writing and all that good stuff. And so I thought
oh,
we'd just start
absolutely.
with, maybe your earliest memories or childhood as far as like when you first started writing or when did this become a passion of yours?
It was really early. I was very fortunate to have a mom who loved to read to us at night, and she
Oh,
was very playful. So she would kind of like act things out and tickle you, and you were really involved. And
well,
so somewhere maybe when I was about 7 or 8, I started writing these stories about Term the termite. It was a termite in
okay.
Africa. And
Okay.
and basically, I think it started from there. It was a series of stories where he was kind of living his life, having his adventures, ended up getting lost from his tribe. A plank of wood that he was living on was made into a ship that shipwrecked in Florida where I lived,
Oh my gosh.
and then he found a new colony. And so over a series of stories, that's kind of how it began. And I
Oh
think I
my
was
gosh.
7, 8, 9 as
Wow,
I
that's
was reading
young.
as writing those.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
very early, very early. I found some of those early stories, and you could see me achingly trying to do the penmanship right.
oh really?
Uh,
Oh. Well, so then it kind of continued on through your school? I mean, was it always something that you had,
It was, yeah, it was. And I don't remember when I first thought that I would actually want to be a writer, but I do remember all of my friends, even well into high school, obviously definitely college, but well into high school, people thought of me as the writer guy, and they'd come have me shape things or invent little stories for them. So
Oh,
it was almost expected. It became kind of like this little side part of my
right.
personality that just flourished and grew.
Oh, I love that. Were you a shy child or were you outgoing as you are now?
I think I've always been, I call myself a pendulivert, like, because I swing between both extremes where
Really?
yeah, I'm awesome with people for about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half. I freaking love them. I can't get enough. I'm
Yeah.
slobbering all over them like a happy puppy. And then I just need to go recharge my batteries like Iron Man.
Wow, I can see that
And
because you are filled with
yeah,
energy. I mean, I feel like I'm the only person on earth when I talk to you, which is like such a beautiful trait as a person to be able to do that. But I
wow.
can
Well,
see that it would kind of
no,
drain you a little bit.
first I want to say thank you, but Stephanie, honestly, I think that's a testament to you.
Oh, really? Wow.
More than me. I'm just really keenly interested in all the things that you do and how you make your decisions.
Oh,
But thank you, thank you.
okay.
I
So
mean,
I'm just special.
wow.
Okay, it's not anyone else gets this treatment. Well, I think
No,
that,
no one, no one, no
okay.
one. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
No, but
hopefully,
I am keenly interested in how just people live. Like I'm
right.
always so curious about not only about what just like their routines or habits, what they do, but also really especially about the decisions they make at different pivot points. So it doesn't
Right.
matter if it's something going on in your life right now or was 12 years ago. I really just have to know the deep, dark things around the whole thing. And then what was it that, what made that choice out of your possible choices the way that you went. Those
Right.
things just, I'm endlessly fascinated by that.
Yeah, because you feel like, an inquisitive investigator when you're talking to anyone, but talking to me, you're like, "Wait, why did you do that? And how did you do that? And where did you come up with that?" And, it's not a lot of people will dive in deeper to learn more about somebody they're talking to, and you really get to the quick of it, you get really deep fast, which I love. That's my kind of peeps.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. And I suspect it might be part of the introvert spectrum that I'm on
Okay.
because everything I've read about the power of quieter people, which I know I don't come across as,
Right.
but I am one. I
Yeah.
identify as one. But is that we really it's the meaningful conversations. It's speaking of things that are significant, and weirdly
Right.
enough, things that are everyday that make a difference. That really thrill us more than say like going to see somebody in concert.
Right. Yes. And small talk.
Right? Yes. Yes.
Just how's the weather, all that kind of stuff. So, as far as writing, you go through high school. Do you go to school for writing? Do you go to college? What's your path after that?
Oh my God, that's such a good question, and nobody's ever asked that before.
Really?
Yeah. And here's what's interesting. In my school, I went to Rollins College. It's a small liberal arts college in the
Okay.
center of Florida, in Winter Park, Florida.
Okay.
And they had this special program that three of us in the whole school were able to get into. And I can't even remember the criteria. Part of it was academic, but part of it was having a mission that you could describe that where you could study outside of the normal. It was almost like you were
Oh,
dual tracking. You couldn't leave school. You
okay.
had to still be in school, but you could have a second major essentially, or a minor. And
Okay.
so I made mine creative writing. And so for several years, I got to study under these different teachers, one who adored me, one who I think loathed me, and and a couple
Right.
others. But but both of them really worked. You know how polarities really work
That's
in
true.
your life.
Yeah.
Like the one who just loved everything I was experimenting with and doing, it just made me want to do it more.
Okay.
And then the teacher who just seemed to be have disdain for
Really?
everything I did.
Wow.
But I think it might have been I was really into trying to figure out how to be raw, how to be free. So
Okay.
I was kind of blowing past a lot of regular strictures
Right. The
in either
basics.
poetry or short story writing. I think she was just trying to corral me.
Right.
Understandably,
Yeah.
can you imagine where an artist doesn't have the fundamentals? And I think
Yeah.
she was frustrated that I was trying to just bypass all that and become the next Tom Robbins
Okay.
or some other wild writer.
Right. Well, that I mean, and also that's challenging too. You'd be challenged by someone that is, not giving you praise.
Well, it
Maybe.
does give you, I've got to say, I remember when I got published and when I was published later, it just made me just look her up and see what she was
Really?
doing.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Oh, I thought it was going to be a mushy moment like, "Oh, you really helped me." No.
Well, she did in that sort of anti-mentor way,
Right,
but
exactly.
really it was the other gentleman who was
Right.
really curious about why I would choose to go in a certain direction and was just always encouraging more of it.
Right. Wow. So then you graduate college and you go out into the world and what happens with you?
I worked on a dude ranch in Colorado,
No, really?
and yeah, for about 5 months, and saved up, bought a bicycle, did a trip halfway across the United States. I was planning to bicycle all the way back to Florida,
Oh my gosh.
and my dad had kind of like a nervous breakdown, and I was coming back to actually work with him. I grew up changing tires,
Oh my
so
okay.
and if you can imagine this, he had a little tire store. It's Florida, and I only worked there in the summers.
Right.
Because I was in school during the rest of the year, and so it was always brutally hot. You're losing maybe, I don't know how many pounds of water weight every day,
Right.
and you can't get the grime and the grit up from
Ugh.
underneath your fingernails. So there's
Okay.
nothing like that kind of experience to really make you want to work in air conditioning,
Yes.
for
I
the
can
rest of your
imagine.
life.
Yes. Never. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I get to Louisiana, and I was having some problems with my knee, and I needed to take a few days off, and I was staying at this almost like a halfway house because I had, gosh, I don't want to tell you, but basically I had been arrested a couple days earlier because
Oh,
they
wow.
thought I was a vagrant
Okay.
coming through Louisiana. So the very next day, I'm like, I don't want to get arrested in Louisiana again,
Right.
So I went straight to the town police that day, and I said, oh my God, hey, I'm just passing through, but I don't want to make it look like
Yeah.
there's something wrong. Is
Wow.
there some place that you can recommend? And so they brought me to this halfway house run by a church, and they were just awesome. They brought me in for several days because I really needed to kind of repair my knee at that
Okay.
time. And I was just helping them move things and do things in kind of exchange for just like sleeping on the floor in my sleeping bag and
Yeah.
getting some food there. And my dad called at that point, and that's when he was just literally, was a really stoic, hard man. So to see him kind of breaking down, it was not even unusual. It just almost it never happened.
Right.
And so within a few days, I was just on a bus and back to Florida. So I worked at the tire store for a couple of years, two and a
Yeah.
half years, and then went to New York City.
Okay. What was in New York City?
Friends, creative life,
Yeah. Exactly.
everything that a tire store doesn't have.
Exactly. The opposite. That makes sense.
Yeah, I remember having this really robust social life in high school and college, and then when I was in the tire store,
Oh, yeah.
I love those people. I mean, I really genuinely love those people. I love the people that I worked with. They would take me out shooting and target shooting and mud
Right.
flatting, in big trucks before it became a thing. Like
Right.
it was so niche that when I would tell other people about it, they just didn't even know what it was.
Right.
And so I love those people, but I had this other part of me that wanted to be able to just speak about things that were cultural
Okay.
beyond country music. And and so that eventually just brought me up to New York City to where a friend was living and offered me to like kind of live with him for a couple of years to get
Oh, cool.
started. And it was literally kind of like the opening of my whole life.
How old were you then?
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
24,
Yeah.
25, 24 and a half, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and typical of me, because I always did all these mini adventures.
Right.
I saved up money, bought a motorcycle, convinced this Italian friend who was kind of I met in Florida to do this motorcycle trip with me, and so I took a whole summer winding up the coast all the way to Nova Scotia and back. And yeah, I was
Amazing.
always trying. Back then, I was always saving for the next trip,
For the
next
next,
little
oh, that's
adventure.
cool. You had wanderlust. You wanted to travel and experience all that. That's,
Yeah,
oh, I love that.
yeah.
You said your life started then. What started?
It was the first time. When you're younger, you feel fully immersed in what you're doing. But it was the first time that I felt on mission with my people because being who I was, just all of a sudden it became really easy to be me and attract a lot of other friends and frankly, girls.
Really?
Like it was
Interesting.
just well, I think back then, and I don't know how New York City is now because I haven't been there in
Right.
25, 30 years, but back then there were very few straight men as a percentage of straight
Oh, wow.
women.
Okay.
And
Yes.
so
Okay. That makes
it,
sense.
and plus it was post 70s,
Right.
it was really, everybody had gone through the 60s and the 70s and it was very free and very open and it was a
Right.
lot of fun. And, and so people were just kind of, and New York City has this unique thing because you live in California
Right.
and I've heard people who lived in New York City move to California and then eventually move back. And the
Really.
reason almost universally was Californians are the friendliest people in the world, but it's so hard to become deep friends with them
Yes.
because
It's
they
true.
live distances away. They already have their own groups.
Yep.
They're more siloed. In New York City, you're living in the just god awfulest little apartments,
Right.
and you don't have any money in your 20s, and
Right.
so you're sloshing around from apartment to apartment,
Right.
going and doing things, and you bond over your kind of shared adventure and misery,
Right. Right.
and,
That makes
and
sense.
you form these lifelong friends
Oh,
that and I don't know. I've never lived in California, so what
Right,
do I
that's
know?
true.
I'm
Yes, I
a,
get that though.
yeah.
I definitely can agree that that's what it was when I came here in my 20s. So yes, you are correct.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So maybe that resonates,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
yeah. Yeah, so basically it was finding my people, finding everybody who speaks culture, like
Oh, good.
literally every single person was trying to do something. Everybody in their 20s
Oh, I love that.
was there to do something. And it was, you've probably heard that joke. I think it might have even originated in LA, but it's like, how do you find an actor? And you say, waiter. And,
Exactly.
so that's what it was like. We were
Yes.
proofreaders. We were all just sloshing around doing the least important jobs to be done in the city,
Right.
and everybody was either trying to be a saxophonist or form a band or write poetry or write their great American novel. It was just really exciting. It was
Oh,
very
that's so
exciting.
that's cool. I can see that that would be electric. You're like-minded people. It's lifting you up. So what did this inspire you to do?
Well, this is going to sound antithetical to what I just said, but I just
Okay.
remembered this. Um, so after I was there for several years, because I lived in New York City for 11 years,
Okay.
and so probably literally after only being there 2 or 3 years, I realized that a lot of people harbored a dream, but they weren't doing anything about it.
Ah,
You know,
yeah.
and and like I'm thinking specifically of this one woman who just every conversation dripped with her passion for music, but yet her roommates never heard her practice.
Ah, yeah.
And
Right.
and she was just the loveliest person. And I remember starting to see this tendency where everybody's talking about what they're doing or what they're planning to do, and there's this great sort of froth about, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to
Right.
do that. But I was realizing that there wasn't very much action behind a lot of it with a
Oh,
great
yeah.
number of, I mean, a much greater percentage of the people. Like, so if I was talking to 50 people in the course of 4 weeks, probably only 10 were activating on it,
Right. That actually makes
on
sense though.
whatever it
Yeah.
was their dream was.
Right.
And so I remember forming this very strict rule with myself, kind of a two-part rule. It was the 5 minute rule that no matter what, no matter how hard I worked, because sometimes I was working brutal hours or partied, worked
Yeah.
and partied,
Right. And girls.
I had to write for I had to write for 5 minutes a day.
Okay.
And and so that would be at the end of the day for me back then. And I would just I had no matter what, I had to turn on my little computer and start writing.
Okay.
And in 5 minutes I could stop if I wanted to. And sometimes I did.
Right.
Sometimes I literally fell asleep on the keyboard.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes I would just have a second wind and go for 2 hours. That was like the first rule. And then the second rule was, which probably formed the first rule, was that anytime somebody asks me, because you were asked almost daily when you're in your 20s, as you're
Right.
bopping around,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you want to be? Or
Right.
what do you do? What do you do? What is it you do? I could
Exactly.
not call myself a writer unless I had written the day before.
Oh,
So
really?
if I
Interesting.
had
Okay.
not written the day before for 5 minutes or more, I literally did not allow myself to say that I'm here to write.
Wow.
I'm here
Okay.
to to meet people and to write.
So you're a little hard on yourself,
But it was actually it turned out to be a good
but that's good.
discipline.
No, I like that. Yeah, because I mean, you're trying to set something that will get you somewhere instead of because days can go by and you could just sit there like many people you're describing, but you were actually doing.
Oh,
I like that.
well, that's what hit me because after the first couple years there, because before I landed in New York City, I was really kind of writing and doing a lot, and then all of a sudden, those first couple years of just exploring too much, adventuring too much,
Right.
it be I could see where I was getting off track, and so that was kind of my way
Oh, I
to
see.
just set simple rules to get myself back on track.
Right. Oh, I love that.
So I kept writing, and I wrote, I guess, about 3 books while I was there. These were all fiction,
Okay.
and but I also just almost accidentally rose up in the corporate hierarchy
Oops.
at
Okay.
one point. But it was, I mean, it was actually a very good thing because it led to me opening an art gallery years later.
Right. All
But at
right.
one point, I was a freelance proofreader just because they paid you only moderately badly to be a proofreader, to be
Okay.
literate in New York City back then.
Right.
And so I was just bouncing around between dozens and dozens of different firms, different hours. It was just
Okay.
crazy for a few years. And at one point, I landed a longer term gig at Salomon Brothers, which is an
Oh yeah.
investment bank.
Okay.
And I was there, and the graphic design department happened to be right next to me. And so I started wandering in there, and I just loved it. It was back then, it was before computers had taken over,
Oh, that's right.
and everything looked like advanced kindergarten. You know, you're cutting, you're
Right.
pasting, you're
That's
putting
true.
things down, you're drawing things, and then you're copying them and you're filling them in.
Right.
And so basically, whenever we had downtime in the proofreading department, I went over there and I was like, hey, what can I help with? And there were probably about 5 people there at any given time, you know, at any given shift.
Okay.
And and they would be going, oh God, can you take these acetates and just lay these down? You know,
Right.
and
Right. The
they were
grunt
just
work.
giving me the drudgiest work. And I'm like, oh yay. And it was so much fun. And I remember I had a girlfriend at the time where I was starting to get fed up of just being a proofreader and not going anywhere. And
Right.
she had really convinced me that I just had to quit and just that it would force me to go find something different.
Okay.
And so, you know, one day I kind of march into the head guy's office and I'm like, okay, sorry, I got to give my notice. And he's like, but we love you. You're fantastic. You've got to stay. And I'm like, I
Right.
can't. I'm never doing it again. And and he's, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I really love the graphic design department. And I had no training. You know, everybody else
Right.
in there had gone to school for it, everything. And so he said, okay, you're hired. And
Oh
he
wow.
put me in the graphic design department as the least important person. But it ended up being like the springboard to my career because I was I think I was the first person I knew that bought a computer. I know I was the first one
Really?
among my friends.
Wow.
Yeah, it was $3,000 back when I,
Oh my
didn't
gosh.
even have $78,
Yes.
and I remember just cobbling it together and thinking, oh, okay, there goes a bicycle trip. I won't be able to do that, but I'll have this computer.
That's right.
And
Oh.
and so I was really into it, and it was back when you didn't even have hard drives. You know, you were putting in floppy disks, and
Oh
you're
right.
trying. If you're writing a letter, you had to kind of program it just to even get the formatting.
Ay ay ay.
Yeah, it was a totally different world than now.
Right.
But I was figuring all this out, trying to figure out how I could use it as a writer. You know, putting my floppy disks in with my different short stories and
Right.
things that I was writing. And right at that time, when I went to the graphic design department, almost immediately they brought a computer in,
Ooh.
and all everybody was kind of scared of it.
Really?
Everybody. I mean, yeah, like it was almost like with people, a lot of people with AI now, like they're
Oh
terrified
yeah.
that
Right.
AI is going to eat up the world. And it might,
Yeah.
but
That's true.
I can't predict the future. But I do know that back then I was the only one who was like, hey, I'll try it, and I
Yeah.
would
I
learn
know.
these programs, and I would learn graphic design in the desktop publishing programs, and then I would start teaching the other people, and then I would start to realize, oh, this grunge work, if we make a template, we can do. And so I just started doing these things, and then very rapidly over a period of like just a couple of years, just a few years, I
Right.
rose way up. You know, I just kind of,
That's
just kind of
incredible.
riding the tide of now this department, now the whole bigger business department that has multiple departments wants more computer stuff, and
Right.
this guy seems to know what he's saying, and so they kind of it went from there,
Perfect
and
timing.
then yeah, it was I just rode the crest of a wave that I didn't even know was there.
Well, I'm sure it has something to do with you too. Your personality, your work ethic, all those things too. Not just luck.
And yes, yeah, it was half luck and half being very inquisitive,
Right.
very,
Yes.
very curious to see what it could do.
Right. Well, okay.
And the
So
whole time I was writing,
you were. That's what I was
because
just going to ask.
I
Okay.
had my 5 minute rule. Like,
Uh,
in fact,
So still
Stephanie, I've got
throughout
to tell
this.
you, and I've got to tell you one more thing
Oh
about
yeah.
this, and then I promise we'll quit on New York City. But so I left Salomon Brothers after 5 or 6 years, was a freelancer for a while, got hired at Lehman Brothers
Okay.
as, at even higher up and better pay. And I was working literally. Lehman Brothers was part of I think it was like Shearson American Express or Shearson. I can't even remember what it was called. It was a
Okay.
conglomerate. And within about 2 weeks of being hired, they split up, and Lehman Brothers didn't have any graphic design capability, any print capability, really no computer capability
Oh,
beyond the
wow.
basics.
Okay.
And so we're all sitting there in this large meeting, and they're like, we need to get all this stuff, and nobody was raising their hand. And I was just a few weeks into the job, and I didn't even really have a portfolio, and I was like, I better raise my hand, otherwise I'm out of here. So
Right.
I raised my hand, and it became very intense. I mean, we were building all of this with me, this incredible top-notch designers, people who were at different levels of computer skills. We
Right.
were just kind of building it all overnight, and it went really well. We were able to build this capacity up. I mean, just in scary time. But you're doing 80
Right.
to 100-hour weeks, and
Oh,
in
yeah,
New York
yeah.
City at that time, if you were going home after, say, I think it was like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, they would
Right.
drive you home,
Oh,
and I
nice.
would literally just hop one of those cars, drive home, go to the gym for 30 minutes, and go back to work in another car. It was just, but I would still do my 5 minutes,
Wow. Okay.
and
So you did.
and one of my favorite books that I've ever written that kind of almost sort of launched me into the second half of my writing career came out of it. I was just writing all these real little short pieces that were very half fantastical, half memoir biographical.
Oh, cool.
But it was every night, every
What was the
night,
book
every
called?
night. While it was called Please Kiss Him.
Okay.
And the subtitle was A Book of Pieces because it had 78 of these very shorter than short stories, most of them,
Okay. Oh,
just
cool.
short pieces, and
Mhm.
which I never published. I never even sent it out,
Oh,
but
really? Okay.
because my whole MO at that time was to do something, go, and then off to the next adventure.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you just rose up in these companies. You started making money. You're living in New York, and you're still writing. And then what happens then?
So I left New York City. I just had this dream of when I had left Salomon Brothers earlier, I'd said I'd freelance, but I also did this month-long kayak trip. That was the real reason I
Oh,
left,
cool.
was to go do this month-long kayak trip with a couple friends. We went around the entirety of Lake Champlain, which
Uh,
is up in between upstate New York and Vermont.
right.
And I think it's about 110 miles long. And so we started on the east side, down near the south
Okay.
of Burlington.
Right.
And we went all the way up, just, I think we could almost kiss the Canadian border. And then we came back down the other side, kind of coming through the islands. There's some really large islands in the middle of Lake
Okay.
Champlain, all the way down. And so a few years later, I was just so enamored with that experience with my two buddies that I kept thinking of a longer kayak trip, and I wanted to do one from New York to Florida because we kayaked all the
Oh,
way to New
wow.
York City,
Okay.
literally to a dock in New York City. And I thought, oh, if I leave again from that same dock and go south, what a trip that would be.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Okay.
basically, when I quit my job at Lehman Brothers, it was to do that trip. I had been
Oh,
training for months, and so
that's
I started on
incredible.
that
Okay.
trip, but I didn't finish it. There was a girl involved, but
Ah, those
another
girls.
story, another time.
Uh-huh. I know.
Yeah.
If we only had 3 hours, because this is what I want to ask, but we'll ask later. Anyway, so okay, so traveling, influenced you. I mean, did it influence your writing? I mean, did any of that show up in your writing?
You know, it did in that I really met a lot of different people, and I really knew, because when you're sleeping on riverbanks or
Right.
bicycling, and you're sleeping on the other side of barbed wire in
Oh,
Texas, or wherever you're at,
right.
you really get to know people, and you see the terrain in a way that you just can't feel it from a car.
Oh, right.
And so it did inform those things, but I think it was more just I was kind of burning from maybe about the age of 15 to just experience a lot. I felt so inexperienced. I felt
Okay.
so naive, and I can't, I don't, but maybe incomplete would be the word.
Okay. Yeah.
But I just really felt like I needed to get out there and really see what all these things that I was reading about
Oh,
in
wow.
in stories and
Yeah.
books. And so it was more, I think,
Yeah.
the sense of exploration, and being kind of fearless in quitting a really good paying job and going and doing something like this,
Right.
that that came to inform my writing. I not maybe not as much as the actual experiences themselves, but it
Right.
was just that when you're living for 15 or 20 years or more of just kind of surmounting every fear and going and doing it anyway,
Oh,
it,
yeah.
that helped me. That
Okay.
helped me explore things
So were you
creatively.
always like a happy person during this time? I mean, did you always, everything just came to you easily? Or did you have any struggles, or was it just kind of, happy go lucky life kind of thing?
God, I hate to answer
That's a
this, but
big
the truth
question.
is,
Sorry.
no, no, no. It's such a good question, but the truth is, I honestly felt like I used to literally refer to myself only to myself, not to
Okay.
anybody else,
Right.
but like the golden child,
Okay. I
you
like it.
know.
Yep.
But that was bitch slapped out of me when I was about 40 or 45.
Oh no.
So
Good.
so have no fear. I've had plenty of struggles
Oh my gosh.
since
Okay.
then. But it really did feel like for example, I remember getting this lesson early on. So I was at Solomon Brothers, and I had advanced a little bit because of all the computer stuff. And then when I left, every time I would leave to go do an adventure, it seemed like I would land at a better spot. Like I landed several rungs ahead of people who had hired me
Right. So you lived a
at
charmed
Solomon
life.
when I went to Lehman,
Yeah.
and and so I kind of learned that is if you present, because people would be looking at my resume and they'd be
Yeah.
seeing my gaps, and I'd be going, oh yeah, I went and did this trip, and they're like, why would we even want to hire you? You're going to be gone in 2 to 5
Oh
years.
wow. Okay.
And I said, yeah, but you're going to get the best 2 to 5 years you're ever going to get out of anybody,
Oh, see?
because
Yeah.
I'm going to be focused. I do these austerity programs, like when I'm saving up, so I'm not going out and partying till 6 in the
Right.
morning and coming in bleary eyed.
Yeah.
You're going to get the best of me. And so it really, I, I really had this sense that you could kind of like do anything. And even if you failed at what you were trying to do, you could still bounce back from it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And so that kind of did give me the confidence later
Okay.
when I met Anne, my wife,
Oh, where'd you meet her?
to,
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
we had dated in college
Okay.
for about a year or so, but I was a little bit older, just like a year older,
Okay.
and I graduated first. And so we dated. We tried to keep dating, but we broke up.
Yeah.
I think even before she graduated.
Okay.
So and then we didn't see each other again for about 15 years,
Oh, wow.
and
15.
we stayed loosely in touch. Like about
Okay.
every 5 years, we'd
Okay.
be at a phone call.
Okay.
And then 15 years later, after Lehman Brothers, after the kayak trip, which
Yeah.
I stopped once I got
Right.
down to the tip of New Jersey, went and had this little wild adventure in Birmingham, and I realized I did not want to live in New York City anymore, and so I bought this old van, and I had enough money to kind of like live for a year or two,
Okay.
and so I was just driving around the country looking for art areas to live in because I'd fallen in love with art very deeply,
Oh,
passionately
really?
in the previous like 5 or 10 years, and
Okay.
even had tried to become an artist,
Okay.
or not
Okay.
even not to become an artist as selling it, but I just tried to paint.
Right.
And I was dreaming. You're an artist, dream, and you wake up and you see a painting that you created in your dream, and you're wondering, can I do that in real
Yes.
life? And in my case, it was always, no, you can't.
Oh
But,
my gosh.
but the good artists,
Nope.
the really
Oh.
good artists can do that. And
Ah.
so anyway, I was driving around the country, and plus I was thinking that after I'd lived in Birmingham, Alabama for a few months,
Okay.
I love the space and the light and the fresh air, and I just didn't want to go back to New York City. I mean, I didn't even know when I was leaving New York City, and so I just was driving across the southern parts of the United States, back and from one end of the country to the other,
Yeah.
hitting all the art towns. The ones
Oh, cool. Right.
like
Yeah.
like the Santa Fe
Santa
and
Fe.
Taos and
Right.
Bisbee and
Ah,
Topanga Canyon,
love it.
and 30 others, and in seeing everybody I knew also, and
Oh,
because
yeah.
I knew a couple women that I'd grown up with in that lived in California, and so there were several friends out in California, and I was bouncing another friend in Santa Fe, and so I was just bouncing through these towns trying to figure
Right.
out where to live and how to even live outside of New York City because I hadn't
Right.
done it in 11 or 12 years.
Right. Okay.
And so I get back to Florida, and I'm with these two gay friends of mine who've been Dan has been like my a dear, dear, dear friend since college,
Oh, cool.
and we're chit-chatting. And about every 5 or 10 minutes, he's going, well, because he was in college with me and Ann, and he's like, whatever happened to Ann? And I'm
Uh,
like, I don't really know. And then we'd be talking about another 15 or 20 minutes, and he'd be
right.
going, I really liked her. And
Oh.
then, another 10 minutes goes by, and he's like, she's so pretty. And then
Uh-huh.
and another 10 minutes goes by. And then basically by the end of the conversation, he's like, okay, Evs, you cannot even contact me ever again for life unless you reach out and see, and find Ann and see what she's
Whoa.
up to.
Oh my gosh. An
And
ultimatum.
and so, well, I mean, he was doing it in a
Right, I know.
joking way, but because he had seeded the conversation, and we were probably talking for an hour and a half or two, so in every 15 minutes he's intersecting some memory of Anne,
Right.
and so basically I did look her up, and
Okay.
miraculously I found her, and she was living in Florida,
Oh,
and
wow.
we we connected,
Okay.
and I've got to say I probably looked like a bedraggled rat coming at,
Really?
because I'm in my van. I've
Okay,
been
right.
living out of my van for months now, traveling
Yeah,
around the
right,
country,
right.
and I show up at her door, and she just looked, felt as, just as electric and as ever,
Oh,
and
yeah.
home, and within probably 24 hours we were dating
Whoa.
casually,
Okay. Yeah.
and then the odd thing is, a few months later, my dad had had a stroke, and
Oh
I was the
no.
only sibling that was free,
Okay.
and so I was going back and forth across the state to help him, take him to all of his where he needed to go for
Right.
rehab, to doctors, all those kind of things, because I was the only sibling that was free, and
Right.
so at this point I was planning to move to Santa Fe just so
Okay.
I could be closer to the future Stephanie
Oh,
Page.
of course.
But
Right.
like that whole environment out there,
Yeah.
and and in the middle of the night, I was realizing, oh my God, I can't leave my dad, like this. I can't go, and
Right.
and then I just had this epiphany. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to open up an art gallery. So I'm in the middle of the state. It's probably midnight, and I'm driving over, and I call Ann and wake her up, and I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go to Santa Fe. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to open an art gallery. And we had only been dating 2 or 3 months,
Okay.
if that. I
Yeah.
don't even know if it was 6 weeks.
Oh
It was
wow.
not very long,
Yeah.
not very long again. And she goes, I'm in. I'm doing it with you. And
That's awesome.
that's how it all began.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. You guys make a great team. That's awesome.
Oh,
Wow.
we do make a great team. In
Yeah.
fact, it could never have happened without the two of us.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so you open up, what year was this when you opened? Is it the same gallery, Studio E?
Yeah, Studio E Gallery, and it was, what are we in? We're in 25. So next year is going to be our 30th year. So it was
Wow.
1996.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
30
yeah,
years. That's incredible.
yeah, and that was a massive full onslaught of, yeah, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Neither one of us had been in the gallery world. We didn't know anything about it,
Right.
and I remember my dad even trying to sway us into buying a gallery because there was a gallery that we could buy
Oh,
that
right.
was for sale, and we're like, no, we're gonna do this ourselves. And boy, do I wish I'd bought that gallery.
Oh, dang it. Yeah.
Because,
Right.
oh my God, all the things you
Rent.
don't know, and
Right.
also how hard it is to get artists when you don't have a name.
Oh,
How
yeah.
hard it is to get quality
That's
artists.
true. Right. That's exciting though, to open up your own gallery. And do you get married soon after the gallery gets? I mean, how does this
No,
happen? What?
no,
No, you just,
no.
okay, interesting. Okay.
We actually started the gallery, bought a home, and did like 10,000 contracts for 4 years before we got married.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, and it was the craziest, most backwards thing. And I remember when we got married, it was just like, why didn't we do this 4 years ago? Because when you're not married, and
Yeah,
you might remember this, you're planning by 6 months at a time or 12 months at a time, and if then that. And as soon as you're married, now you're looking at it over decades, and you can plan long
exactly.
term.
Right.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
everything became so much simpler,
Uh,
so much easier, and we were really able to mesh our visions for our lives.
you get married, and So when do you have a child? So is it right away, or I'm trying to do the math here. So you
No,
no, you wait a little while.
we started really late.
Yeah, like me.
I was 44
Oh, okay.
and Anne was just a couple, year and a half younger.
Okay.
And that's when we adopted Zane.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
it was just, it was, and really, I thought I never wanted to have kids because I just didn't think it could go with a creative, adventurous life.
Right, right.
And here's how art and life can really influence you because I remember watching my brother, who will say he's not creative at all. He's an attorney,
Okay.
but he lives the most creatively engaging life of anybody I've ever met. I mean, the
Oh,
way he interacts with people, the
okay.
way that he's playful, the way that he contributes in society, he's just so creative and so kind of gaming with life and making it fun and interesting for people, yeah, of all levels.
Right.
And I remember they had kids, and Ann and I were watching, or I was really watching, kind of like a hawk, going, "Wow, this is actually really creatively challenging," to be a parent.
Yes. Yeah.
And then this friend of ours, who was the director of the big theater here in Palm Beach County, kind of the most prominent one, he gave us tickets to Spalding Gray, who was a monologuist. He would put on one
Yeah.
man plays. He was also an actor who showed
Okay.
up in a lot of films and things,
Right.
but he was most famous for Swimming to Cambodia and several other of these one man plays. And we went to one, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was all about him and his 5-year-old kid. And he
Oh,
had the exact same feeling I had always had, that you can't live a creative life with children.
wow.
And this whole play was a refutation of that. And it
Okay.
was funny, it was engaging. There were times I had tears in my eyes. And between that and my watching my brother
Yeah.
with his kids, we kind of all came together.
Right.
And we're just like, okay, yeah, yeah. Because I knew Anne very much wanted to have a child.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Right.
very much. And it was me that was thwarting everything.
I know
And
we had the same thing, adopted a child too, same.
really,
But I pulled them all the way through.
and that's what Anne did. That's what Anne
Yeah,
did. I mean, I could just see how sad she was because she loved me. She loved our
Yeah,
life.
right.
She loved what we were doing, but she really felt that this other part was the completion.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I was just very thick. It took me a long time to
Well,
figure
yeah,
this
I mean,
out.
you loved your life, and same with my husband. He loved his life, loved freedom, everything he does. We travel. It was like it's a great life. Why would you want to, mess with that? But I'm like,
And then,
yeah.
but Stephanie, was it true with Doug that, I mean, that afterwards
Oh my
he's like,
gosh.
"What was I thinking?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my
I
gosh.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the favorite,
because
it's the best thing that ever happened to him in his life. So yes. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And in fact, if I were living, I remember a friend of mine in New York City who knew me really well from kind of my more rambly days,
Yeah.
and he was talking to me, and he goes, "Wow, what's it like being, essentially in his view, really tied down?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, Ronnie, if I were to live my life in reverse, where I was living this life that I have now, with Zane, with Anne,
Right.
being in suburbia or the Reburbs,
You're right.
and then I had to go in to live my life in New York City, I would be so depressed.
Yes.
I would be so
Oh
depressed
my
because it
gosh.
would feel so hollow compared to the
Wow.
richness of what we had.
Right. I mean, I think you've created a beautiful life. You have a Studio E Gallery in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. And you're writing all the time too. And you started publishing books. So you had like, let's see, The Creative Morning, Burn Baby Burn, It's All Solved with Walking, and The Seven Promises of Art that you published.
Yeah,
Did I get them
yeah.
all that you published, or is there more?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah, so there are four. There are four. I call them boquitos
Right.
because they're short. They're short nonfiction
Yes.
books, and I yes, and so that's been my project for about the last 10 years or so. I think the first one came out maybe 8 or 10 years ago.
Okay.
Um, and I've been writing furiously, because I had taken a break from writing for about 15 years, and then I was writing
Oh, wow.
furiously
Okay.
on a couple different longer books. But then all of a sudden, I had this idea for short books because I love novellas,
Yes.
and I was like, why don't we have an official category for nonfiction books that are the size of novellas? And so that's why I just started using the term boquitos,
I love that.
for
Boquitos. Yeah.
short books. And so
Right.
all of them, and I just define them as nonfiction under 40,000 words, which is what a novella is, under
Okay.
40,000 words. I just
Right.
borrowed it, nakedly from the novella.
Oh, that's
And and they all combine a theme, a life theme. So Burn Baby Burn
right.
is about spiritualizing your creative practice.
I love
The
that.
Creative Morning Challenge is about basically getting up insanely early for 30 days and just doing it.
Right.
and
Yes.
and It is Solved by Walking is all about the the connection, the spiritual connection, and the creative solution capacity that comes from walking.
Right.
And then the Seven Promises of Art kind of had an interesting genesis because I don't know if you and I have ever talked about this, but for years and years and years, I've been doing this thing I call give back calls.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So we get lots of artists. You can imagine we've become a fairly prominent
Yes.
gallery,
Right.
and we just get hundreds of submissions a year, but
Right.
we can only take a very, very small sliver of that.
That's
But our,
true.
our whole mission is to support living artists.
Right.
And so one of the ways I kind of finessed it is anybody who asked, if I, because when we turn people down, I try to do it in the most positive way possible.
Right.
Either accenting something that I love about their work, suggesting that they keep going, or even places where that they might look, places or
Right.
areas that might
Yeah, because your
might be better.
roster is, you only have a certain need for, like when you have a certain
Yeah.
roster. So if it's not a fit, it's not that the artist isn't great, So you're helping them and you're volunteering your time to communicate with them and give them advice.
Oh, and you're so right because you can really you have to turn down literally exceptional artists all the
Right.
time
Right. I
because
can't
they
imagine.
either overlap with an artist that you already love,
Yeah,
that or they just don't fill a hole that you're looking to fill in the gallery
that's
because you
true.
have such limited space. So it was these give back calls. So and I would just schedule them. So basically, whenever I would send out, hey, sorry, no, but if somebody wrote back with a question, I would immediately say, hey, do you want to jump on the phone for 15 to 30 minutes and
Okay.
just ask me any questions you want to ask about the art world, about
Right.
submitting anything art career related. And so that just kind of became a thing. And and so the Seven Promises of Art kind of came out of those discussions. All those
Oh,
discussions over the
right.
years, I'm relating different aspects of the art world that I feel are important, and some of those stories that are either funny or
Yes.
heartbreaking, and so anyway, it came out of that, and then it coalesced into the Seven Promises of Art.
That book is amazing, by the way, and I
Oh,
love how you write, not only the book itself and also your other books too. It's about Solved with Walking too. It's like you're trying to help the creator, and you're also giving insight and your experience all these years working in a gallery and being a writer and all that. It's like I think it's amazing, but it's so entertaining the way you write because your character does come out in your writing, which to me I think is so fun. Knowing you and reading your books. So I'm in love with your writing and your style, which
oh
is
my
kind of cool.
gosh, thank
Really,
you.
truly.
Thank you so much because I feel like that was sort of the breakthrough for me a number of
Yeah.
years ago, is trying to figure out how to be the sometimes flippant,
Yeah.
but
Right.
and as you know, probably even here, you're seeing me like whip off on tangents that I probably shouldn't go down,
Well,
and
it's fun. I'm enjoying
and
it.
yeah, and so I want to have that same sense of spontaneity within a thematic book because I always
Right.
want every book to have a theme that I think will reach a certain percentage of the populace.
Right. Right. And I mean, you really are living your life purpose with these books because you're giving away your knowledge of everything that you've gained in your life, and you really want to help creatives, which to me is like It's such a beautiful thing, and that's why we have this podcast and why we reach out to artists and artists help artists and things like that and creatives. So I think it's such a great thing when you see someone doing something like this to make a difference in this world, and such a beautiful difference, not just a little difference. You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you. You're going to feel this with this podcast for yourself because I've had people reach out to me that have no idea who they were
Right.
until they emailed and one or two even became really good friends because they ended up being local.
Oh, right.
But I mean,
Yeah, I like
after we
that.
met,
Right.
after they had read a book, and what's really intense though is you put something out there like this, just like you're doing with this podcast, and then the people who reach out to you to tell you their story inspire you more than you could have
Yes.
ever inspired them. Like I'm
Absolutely. Yeah.
so freaking inspired after every email newsletter, and I have a very occasional email newsletter. It only comes out once or twice or three times a year.
Okay.
And and after every bookito, there's always people who contact me, and oh my God, they're so much more inspiring than even what I was writing. And so some of that ends up coming into a future bookito,
Right.
which you're going
Right.
to find out in your podcast because you're going to probably have people
Right.
reach out to you, tell you what something meant, and you're going to be going, "Oh my God, I've
Yeah.
got to interview you right
That
now."
right, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's what, to me, I feel like my life's a storybook. So everyone that comes in is a character and there's a reason for them and there's a necessary connection that I need to make. So it's an interesting thing because that seems like how you run your life too. You connect with like-minded people, but you're also being affected by people. You're not just telling everybody what you think and that's it. You also soak up what they have to say, which is it's amazing. It's really
Oh,
beautiful.
and even though I always have a bit of memoir, a lot of them, there's a strong portion of my own life in every book. There's a lot of other people's stories, some famous, some people that I've just encountered along the way.
Right.
But I really, it couldn't even be done. These boquitos couldn't even be done if it was just only my experience.
Well, I'm
My
sure
experience
yeah.
is sort of like the glue that then
Yeah,
lets all these other stories
which
thrive.
makes your life more meaningful too and writing more meaningful when you know the people and it's more, it's yeah, it's such a cool life you have. I love it.
Hey, can I ask you really quickly,
Yeah.
what was the impetus behind the podcast series? Like how did you get there? How
Well,
did you,
I wrote the book The Grateful Artist and just I had such a desire to help because I've worked with artists for 30 years and so many people have blocks and a lot of people are struggling with perfectionism and trying to get over. And
yes.
there's a myriad of reasons why they can't get to these and create or write. And like you said, those people in New York saying they have this big dream, but they won't do it or act on it because there's so much in the way. Childhood wounds, you name it. So after I published the book and had this wonderful reception of the book, there were so many people I wanted to read that do not read books. So they're like, "Oh, I would love to read. When you have an audiobook, call me." I'm like, "Okay."
Yes,
I'm
yes.
like, "Well, maybe I could do a podcast and kind of just share about the book and share chapters in the book and maybe it can reach to them that way." But a lot of it is kind of also wanting to reach my child, you know, my creative child,
Oh,
Alex, and,
yes,
you know,
yes.
and to inspire him and things like that. And I felt
Now,
like,
does he prefer listening over,
yeah. Oh,
say,
yeah.
reading?
Oh,
So does
absolutely.
my son,
Yeah.
Zane.
Right.
Oh my God.
See? You
Yes.
need to do audiobooks.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
I know he may never read a bookito that I read. So I can
Right.
actually that I write, so I can actually say anything I want about it because he'll probably never
Exactly.
see it.
That's what I was saying. I
Yeah.
could write whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool that's part of the
Yeah.
reason.
But what I
Oh
didn't
my God.
realize is once it started, I'm building this community of people and artists reaching out and being a part of it and you joining it is like it's building this wonderful like community for people to get advice or get inspired or be willing to help other creatives and so it makes my life so much richer. I'm like so excited about it every day. It's a great additive to my creative week. Of
So
course, I'm
I've got
not
two
all day, all
questions.
week long doing it, just 1 or 2 days, but
Do you mind if I
yeah,
do a couple
I
follow-up
knew you were
questions
gonna
on
do
that?
this. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, he
Well,
can't be
I'm
interviewed. There's no way he's gonna have to ask questions. He can't control himself. No, I'm
well,
just
no,
kidding.
but
No,
I'm
I'm
so
kidding.
curious. For example, like, how do you manage it? Because you're a very successful artist. You
Oh,
have a family. You are very tight with your family, so you have family
yeah.
time.
Yes.
And I also know, and I don't know if your listeners know this yet, but you also donate time and space on your property to other artists
Yes.
to come kind of find their artistic voice.
Yes.
So that's all, just even if you didn't have a podcast, that's already a lot because I know
No.
what it's like to have to be creating. I live with an artist to
Oh,
be,
yeah. You know.
you
Yeah.
know, getting work out there. And being in communications all the time and marketing. So so I guess my question is, how do you figure out what to tackle and what not to
Yeah,
tackle?
that's an interesting question. I mean, I do have a wonderful assistant, art assistant. Trevor is my nephew. He's also an artist, and we do collabs. But he kind of helps me, and also my son works for me too, which helps. And my the people that come over for the week, it's just a couple days out of the week, and I'm not always with them in the studio. Sometimes they just go to the studio, and I'm doing my own thing. So but when they do come, it's like a very fun, because I'm a solo worker all these years doing artwork, and then all of a sudden I
Mm.
have all these people come. It's like having coworkers, having lunch together, and it's art therapy. We do therapy sessions. How are you doing today? How are you feeling? What's wrong? Let's figure this out. So it's a funny and beautiful life, and it's not busy.
Yeah, and I can also, yeah, but are you at the point where you have to say no to things that you wish you didn't have to say no to?
Um, well, I do know how to say no. Let's just say that. No, I'm just kidding.
And I'm glad I haven't seen that part of you.
Exactly.
No.
I can say no. But yeah. No, I think, life it's functioning really well right now, for whatever reason, everything's flowing, and I'm not an overworker. People always think, gosh, you must work too much. And I got a lot of downtime, naps, you name it. So
Oh,
I'm not an overworker anymore. And
well,
but yeah.
you
How about
strike
you
me.
though?
Have you heard about that book called Essentialism
No.
by Rod McEwen? So I've read or listened to it 3 times over maybe about a 6-year period. Like every 2 or 3 years, I'll kind of listen to it or read it again.
What's the book
But
called?
so it's called Essentialism,
Okay.
and even though he's writing a little bit more to a corporate, you can also tell he's writing to an entrepreneurial slash artistic type of person too.
Right.
And but his is always, his idea is about getting your life pared down to only the things that are essential. And the way
Yeah.
that you know that you're doing it is when you have to say no to something that's good.
Ooh.
Like, it's
Yeah.
it's not saying no to the things that you don't want to do, because I've
Right.
become masterful. I've become masterful of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I could do that easy.
and in fact, when you have a kid, it's the easiest way to get out of things. Oh, sorry, like,
Sorry, can't do it.
Zane's got something.
Yeah.
It's family night 7 nights a week. Sorry,
Exactly.
but but I thought it was such a perceptive insight. That whole thing is, once you are saying no to something that's good, but not in the most essential things that you want in your life,
Right.
that's when you're truly an essentialist. And I was like, oh,
Ooh, I like that.
wow.
That's
And
really
I have
cool.
a feeling you must have some kind of Jedi masterhood in that,
Sure. No.
of being able to
Well,
make that
definitely.
work.
Yeah, I think at this point in my life, because I'm a former people pleaser, so imagine my entire life, not the entire life, but a lot of my life, always saying yes, doing everything for everyone, and I still do a lot for people, but it's because I want to, and I'm taking care of myself. That's the difference, that I'm making sure I'm
Yeah.
okay first, before I show up for someone else. So
Was
that's
there a point that really made that pivotal, or is that something that you wouldn't want to share here in a
No, yeah,
podcast?
definitely. I mean, I write about it in my book, just it was an awakening moment, because I was just so attached to everything and couldn't let go. I was control freak. I was just kind of always trying to help everyone, which is another sense of a control too. Let me fix everything, put on my cape, all that kind of stuff. And then I just had this awakening moment of like not very happy, not very authentic. Like I was really far from
Mm.
who I truly was. So I realized that I had to kind of give up all these things and let go of my grip on life and just kind of, give away everything I have to in order to just start over in a way of like authenticity and being real and simple. So I
Oh
crave
my gosh.
simplicity, my art became very simple, everything was kind of more calmer and just peaceful instead of having to be perfect and,
Well,
accepted.
that's one of the things that when I'm telling people about your book, that's probably one of five different things that I try to really make sure I tell people about that they've got to read is that chapter that you had about that. But I didn't realize that that was also entwined with giving up the people pleasing aspect.
Oh, yeah.
It's-
Oh, yeah, I should have made that more clear. No, just kidding.
oh, no, no, no.
No,
You
no,
know what
but
it
you're
is?
right.
Is
Yeah.
I will catch that on second reading.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it is interesting, but like, so how do you have that? How do you balance everything? I mean, you have a busy life, it seems like from the outside looking in, and also you're giving time to help people, you're running a gallery, and you're writing, and you're publishing these books. And
Yeah. I think for me, it happened naturally since we were so, Zane really helped a lot because we were so late to having a child.
right.
44 years old is quite, is very old, especially if you have an age similar wife. You
Yes.
don't have a 24-year-old wife,
Right. Right.
or vice versa.
Yeah.
And so I had already lived everything I ever wanted to live in nighttime, when I was younger. So
Right.
when he came along, it was very easy for both of us to just say no to everything. We're just like,
Right.
we're family. And we thought it was only for a few years, but it really ended up being for his entire time with us,
Yeah.
until he went off to college. We just wanted to have family time every night, every
Yeah.
night. And
I
even
love
though,
that.
he would have friends and sometimes he'd be studying and we just had a family for every evening. And so it was kind of that thing
I love that.
that started. And then when he got older, and especially once he could drive, you don't see the
Right.
kid again.
Exactly.
Except when he's bringing 12 friends over,
Yes,
and,
exactly.
on
Oh,
a 7 minute notice. But other than that, you don't see him again. And we just kept maintaining the fiction that we don't do anything at night, and we loved it.
oh, I
So
love
it
that.
was kind of easy to keep going at that point.
Yeah, because you
And
can
then
do the
naturally,
gallery during the day, your wife can create during the day, and then you come home, you're with the family, and then weekends you're with
yeah,
family, and it's kind of more
yeah.
structured that way. So how do you fit in writing in that then?
So writing, I either tend to do it first thing in the morning. Now I tend to wake up early, so a
Oh,
lot of
nice.
times it's in the morning, and which is great. I actually prefer that.
Yeah.
But just like days of old, if I don't get it done by the end of the night, I'll just log on and do something
Okay.
at the end of the day. Or sometimes I know that kind of our family hour is approaching, and I'll just rapidly shut down everything gallery and spend 45 minutes in a Bukito project.
Right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I had really locked in a certain time frame, but I've been notoriously bad at that, about that. But I have been good about what I guess you would call a flexible time block.
Yeah, which I
Where I
like.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, as far as, I mean, do you experience any writer's block? I mean, or every time you sit down, you have something to write?
I don't, but I think it's a function of a really full life. Like I
Yeah.
don't have enough time to have writer's block. I
Yeah.
really feel sometimes the writers or creators who have writers or creators block. This is such a good question.
Right.
I think there's actually maybe two prongs or three prongs to this.
Okay.
But one is when you're really busy and you're really full, you're every little bit of downtime, you're driving, you've got an idea pop out, and you kind of like record it. And
Right.
so that by the time you show up, you've already got ideas spilling outside of you, ready to go. Once
Right.
you're in a project, it's no big deal. Probably like when you're in a painting,
Right.
and you're in the flow. Even when it's challenging, even when you're thwarted, you're trying to figure your way like water around that obstacle, whatever it is.
Right.
But I also suspect that there's another part of it. I've been a long time journaler, you know, gosh, since I was, I think I might have even been 10 with my first journal. I think journaling just gives you fluidity of expressing your ideas, and you just see that so many of them are just going to be bunk and
Right.
ridiculous, but you just got to get them out. And
Yeah.
what you also see is the ideas that you spin out that just seem simplistic or naive or in some way reductive or a copy of something else you've heard. If you just keep working it a little further, ooh, now you're taking it into
Oh,
territory that means something to you and
right.
might mean something to other people. So I think journaling, and since I journal every morning,
Right.
I think that helps considerably because it's surprising to me how many times I'm journaling, not even related to a project I'm working on, and
Right.
yet later on I'll be going, oh, that 2 paragraphs, I'm going to steal that and put that
Right.
right in the bookito.
Oh, I love that. So anything in life can spark you as you go along your day too. I mean, do you write
Yeah.
notes throughout the day, or is it just at the end of the day you accumulate?
Do I write notes throughout the day? I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to just, I don't know if you can hear this, but these are all the notes that are just free
Okay,
floating
I was
around
gonna say.
in my. And in fact, Stephanie, there are times that I've woken up in the morning and you know how when somebody's sick, they've got tissue papers all over the floor, all around
Right.
them?
Yes.
Well, that's what my notes look like. I've had
Oh,
no joke.
really?
When I started the Seven Promises of Art, I remember having that idea coming to me. I just meditated, I'd gone to bed, I'm starting to doze off, and all of a sudden the idea came to me, and I write that. And then I
Yep.
write another thing, and then I write another thing,
Oh
and then
my
I wake up in the
gosh.
morning, and there had to be 30 or 40, maybe 50
Wow.
little 5 by 8 yellow
Oh
notepads
my
from
gosh.
note sheets from a padfolio ripped around the bed.
God, that's amazing
Yeah.
though. That's really cool. I mean, how do you shut your brain off then? I mean, if you're this, I mean, I can imagine. How do you fall asleep at night? Do you exhaust yourself?
Well, no, well, I think that's where I meditate
Ah,
every night,
oh,
no matter
good.
what,
Yes.
almost no matter what. Like, I mean,
Okay.
I think if I've missed 3 times in a year, yeah, that
Really?
would be a lot. Yeah, I meditate always right before bed,
Oh, I love that.
always. Even when I'm too tired to meditate,
Right.
sometimes I'll literally climb into bed, assume a semi-meditational pose, just even for 15 seconds. But if you've
Right.
meditated for a long time, you can kind of hit a portion of that zone, and then you're like, and then you
Ah,
fall
you
over
can
onto your
let
pillow and go
go.
to sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I do the same thing at night. That's the most important thing for me for good sleep. But, sometimes it's hard to shut off that creative brain.
You know what
So,
I've really fallen in love with is yoga nidra. Have you ever heard of that? Have
no,
you ever? Oh, God, this is my
really?
love of the last 5 years. And this is an example of how somebody will that will read your book and reach out to you,
Yeah.
or listen to your podcast
Oh,
and reach
good.
out to you, and it will change your life. So I can't remember which book it was, but this woman wrote me. Her name's Suzanne. Turns out she was somebody I had dated way back during my tire store days. She was
Okay.
a dental hygienist,
Okay.
and and so we had just dated very, very briefly. And she was a wonderful woman. And so she went on, had a great life. And she read something and she emailed me and she said, you know what? I think you would really like Yoga Nidra. And I'm like, what? I like anything
Right.
with foreign words in them,
Right.
so let me check this out. And
Okay.
so she recommended a book. And so I started doing this. This was probably just before or right around the onset of COVID.
Okay.
And I was really into it, really into it. And I did it for perhaps a year. And so, you know how when you're doing yoga and at that last 10 to 15 minutes, you're laying on your back in
Yeah.
Shavasana,
Yeah.
the corpse pose?
Yes.
Well, that's the pose you're in with Yoga Nidra. You're literally
Oh,
on a
perfect.
mat. Sometimes I do it on the hard floor.
Yeah.
And you just are laying there. You set an intention, breathing or whatever other method is best for you, you kind of like take yourself down, 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 down. I'm making this really short. And then when you get so far deep that you feel like you're swimming in consciousness,
Ooh.
you revisit your intention again.
Oh,
And you
okay.
can revisit it for just a second, or
Okay.
you can kind of play with it. You can use it as a spark to envision where it might look in the future, how it might feel, or not.
Right.
And then you just kind of gradually come out of it. I've had almost body shuddering moments where
Really?
you get so electrified, your body feels like it has an internal you know, like you're freezing, but warmly.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's a good thing.
Right. Oh, that sounds
But anyway,
lovely.
you might like that. I'll
Yeah,
send you that book.
definitely. And we could post it on the podcast too. If, everything that you're mentioning, I'm going to try to put on on the information part of the
Oh,
podcast. Yeah.
your listeners will appreciate this.
Oh, good.
I mean, I've been meditating forever. I started in college because of a really cool teacher
Oh, cool.
and have been very seriously meditating since some point in my 20s, 30s, and been never missing a beat, probably by the time I got into my late 30s. And
That's
this is,
wonderful.
I've never had a practice that so enlivened me and relaxed me at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, this is just one of my favorite,
Oh,
one of my favorite modes to meditate in now.
so that is a big part of your routine and big part of why you can create and write and, you're balanced, you're having a routine with your family, you're kind of setting all your essentials.
Yeah. No,
You're
exactly.
having
You
all the
nailed
things
it.
that are like the most important things all set up and you have a middle way with everything, which is great, and you're taking
Well,
care of yourself.
I would like to say that, I live this optimal life, but it sounds better, but I think, I kind of think that sometimes, because I'm very much on a spiritual path as you are, just
Yes.
as I'm on a creative path as you are.
Right.
And, but I frequently think that the people who need it most are on that path. And I think I'm one of those people who need it most, because I
Yeah.
tend to be flighty. I tend to be hopscotch around a lot. I need
Yep.
to be grounded. So I can get fearful, even though it sounds silly with some of the things that I've done in my life, but I can get fearful very easily because of other things that have happened. And
Oh, yeah.
so I find that all of these practices, my soul page in the morning, the meditation or the yoga nidra in the evening, they really ground and center me because I need it. I think other people
Right.
may not.
That does make sense, and I do relate to that, anxiety and all that kind of stuff. It kind of you manage your life and your brain and all that with all these things, and it helps you function and create without being stuck in that worry or stress or fear
Yeah.
or anything like that. So that's good. Speaking
Yes.
of Soul Page, you have an upcoming book,
No, actually, Soul Pages.
Soul
Yes.
Pages. Okay, I said that wrong.
Yes. And it's literally from my form of journaling
Really?
that just kind of evolved over the years. Um, and here's the coolest thing, how when there's the genesis of a piece of art
Yeah.
or a genesis of, say, this bookito.
Right.
So I'm on Threads, which is like Twitter/X.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, I get that.
very text driven, short text bits. And about a year and a half ago, somebody had asked a question. They had wanted to get into journaling, and they wanted to just hear how different people did it. And
Okay.
so I was just one of dozens and dozens of answers.
Okay.
Lots of people were answering, and they were all really good answers. And they said, "Oh, my version, I could just call it a soul page, and it's one page, 15 minutes or less every morning." Because I found when I was younger, if I did it too much, then I would stop doing it because it was like, "Oh, I don't have 30 minutes, I
All
don't have
right.
45 minutes." And then there were kind of three main modes that I would do in these soul pages. And so I just explained it very briefly. And then people started asking me questions about it, and I'd tell stories and I'd answer. And then even weeks later, somebody would pop up and go, "Hey, you had this really interesting thing. What was it about?" And so it just kind of lived on
Right.
beyond just that 24-hour cycle.
Right.
And as I was writing these answers, I could see that there was a real hunger for people just for this particular type of journaling. And
Right.
so it all started there.
Ooh, I love that. I can't wait. So it's going to be available on Amazon or do you sell it directly?
No, just Amazon,
Oh,
but it
cool.
will be in both ebook and print form, print
Nice.
book.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
And probably about 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh my gosh, that's soon. That's
It's
exciting.
so fast.
Oh my God, I love
Yeah.
it. Okay, see, this is good stuff. Well, you are unbelievably inspiring as a person. I look up to you. You really did help me write my book. Or at least give me the courage to, because it took me like 5 years. I'm not a natural writer like
Wow.
you are, but I really love like what you're doing, what you're creating, and I think anyone would love any of your books that is creative. I mean, everything that you write is going to help, this creative souls out there. And
Oh.
just so appreciate you taking the time and coming here. I wish we can have like, a 3 hour kind of thing, or maybe part 1, 2, and 3 or something like that. That would be actually helpful.
Oh,
Because
I'm down
there's so
for it.
much there. There's so much there that we missed out.
I'm down for it. I'm totally down for it because, as you can tell, we've only known each other a few years, but
Yes.
every conversation is it's deep, it's engaging, it feels like it's about the stuff of life without,
Yes.
because sometimes you're talking about life, but you shy away, not you,
Right.
one does, a
Yes.
person does, shies away from the things that are hard or that are difficult or that make you struggle. And I love that you're so open about it because we're all human. We all have these. I mean, even as many years as I've been in the gallery business and just in the creative life, there's always something coming up. So I
Right.
love these conversations.
Oh,
Thank you.
me too. Thank you so much. I mean, my gosh. So, I mean, what do you see in your future? Obviously, you have Soul Pages, but what else do you see in your future coming up, or what are you hoping for?
Well, I'm definitely expecting that I will segue more and more and more into what I call Bukito world or Bukito
Okay.
life,
Right.
where I'm writing more, I'm much more engaged with the readership, people who ask me questions
Yeah.
and tell me stories about their lives. So that's kind of been my thrust for the last 5 years or more is to carve out a little bit more time and a little bit more time until it just becomes my main time.
I love that. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't
yeah.
see you as a retired person, just so you know. You probably
Oh,
could never
God,
retire.
never. I don't even think I'll be
Like,
retired after I die.
exactly.
Yeah, that,
Yes. That makes sense to me.
yeah.
Uh, yes. Thank you so much. And definitely let's reconnect hopefully on here again, and everyone look out for the book that's coming out, Soul Pages. And then also I'm going to be posting all of your books on the
Oh,
podcast and websites and all that. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
probably right through my website, evangriffithnotes.com.
Perfect.
And they can just contact me directly. It'll go right to my email,
That's great.
right through there.
That's perfect. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you always. And,
Oh, thank you. I'm going to be riding this high for the rest of the day.
oh my
So
gosh,
thank you,
me too.
Stephanie.
Thank you. All right, take care.
Bye bye.
All right, bye. Wow. Evan, thank you so much for showing up today. I know our creatives that tune in will definitely get a lot out of your share. Totally appreciate it. Even my husband, he's excited to listen to this podcast. He's a writer. We have a lot of writers on here that would love to hear what you have to say, and it's so inspiring. If you're interested in Evan's books, please hop on Amazon and purchase his books. And also look for the book coming out in December, Soul Pages. That's going to be wonderful. We will put down on all of our podcast platforms all the links to his books, websites, and his Instagram threads. And also, we will also put on Anne Griffith's link as well, because she is an insanely talented artist, which I think everybody should check out her work as well. Thank you again for showing up. And if you are an artist that wants to reach out at art@stephaniepagestudio.com, just send me a note and would love to connect with you. And thank you. Until next time, I'm so happy. Woohoo!